can lead to poor outcomes. Unsafe relationships, overconfidence that we're going to get to a deal no matter what, but no agreed upon process. People try to look for solutions before the problem, and therefore end up committing too early or breaking apart too early because they don't get anywhere. And you get all of these slides later on, by the way, even the ones with notes. Sorry, Vanessa, I forgot to say that early on. So basically, what I want to do is let me give an example. Imagine I come to you, Vanessa, since we just had this little education, and I say, I have this massive headache. Can you help me out? What would be a natural reaction from you? There's no trick here. Don't go over it. Go with a natural reaction.
Yes, I'll use menthol.
Right. I didn't even ask for an aspirin. See? I said, I have a massive headache. Can you help me? And she says, yes, I can give you an Advil. Now, she's being very kind and helpful. What is the problem with that? Okay, so basically, now we're going to the middle level, right? We saw the big level there. Now, I want to share with you the second framework. What Vanessa did, and it's what most people do, because we live in a time of solutions and moving very quickly, I have a massive headache, and she goes, here's an Advil. That's what the real world, the business, practical world, we're trained to do, and we're actually very well trained to do that, and very quickly. And for many instances, I'm not trying to ask you to oversweat it. For many instances, that is fine. Okay? Now, when you're going for more complex problems, big negotiations, difficult relationships, difficult processes, multicultural, multi-party, or negotiations in writing, which many times you might have, emails and others, then the level of complexity rises to a point where if you're not a little bit more careful about that process, there might be a lot of miscommunication. As Rodrigo mentioned earlier today, that miscommunication can lead to failed negotiations at 90% of the time. So what is the recommendation? Vanessa, if you were not in the real world, colleague to colleague, easy, simple, I have a headache, fine, here's an aspirin or an Advil, what would be the better way of going about that? I have a headache. And then what would you say?
Tell me more about how it feels.
Tell me more about that headache. And I might say, well, you know what? I didn't sleep very well. I've been jet lagging for 2 nights, I can't sleep. What could be another reason? What's another diagnosis? What's another analysis? What's another cause, potential cause? So I didn't sleep very well. What else?
You're under stress.
I am under stress. What else?
You drank too much last night.
I drank too much last night. What else? I am hungry. What else? I have poor eyesight. I'm getting older, and I'm not, I haven't put glasses on yet because I'm too vain. What else?
You got hit in the head.
I got hit in the head. What else?
You suffer from migraines.
I suffer from migraines.
You're a brain cancer.
Okay, finally got there. It usually gets there. Eventually, people like it. Not only I have a heart attack soon, but I also have brain cancer. Thanks. And I will not resist until the end of the day. So basically, notice, an Advil could actually be a palliative for most of these things on the short term. It will not solve the problem at all. Now, once one thing we know the analysis, what should be some of the strategies? In case of the brain cancer, what should I do? Go see a doctor. Right? Drinking too much, what should I do? Well, one strategy is keep drinking, right? That's one strategy, right? Keep drinking. Or have lots and lots of water. What's another one? Maybe I'm dehydrated, then water also works. You see the picture. If I'm working too much, maybe a little vacation or time off, etc., etc., etc. That's the strategy. That's the number 3 there. What's the 4th? If I'm going to see a doctor, which doctor? At what time? When will I go? Do I need to negotiate with my boss for some time out to go? Etc., etc., etc. Is the detailed implementation of how to go about it. As you can see, normally things will go from problem to action. Academics usually go, here are the reasons why this problem happens, and here are some general level strategies. If people are hungry, it's because they haven't eaten, so they should eat. Solve the world. Great. Right? The idea is both of those are incomplete ways of thinking, and hopefully by putting all of that together, you can have a complete way of going about a thought and going from problem to solution, and hopefully in an interactive way, making sure that we're all moving together towards one. Now, why is this helpful for me and hopefully for you? The idea is that when we do something like that, especially on the more complicated issues, especially when you're more in problem-solving mode, this is more in the influence part of the previous model, okay? The idea here is that if you, for example, send an email making recommendations, have you already sent that email where you get a nasty response back when you had the best of intentions? Have that ever happened to anyone here? You send an email with a good intention, go like, wow! And you're like, where did that come from? It came from your email. Basically because you probably did the following. You probably did problem, or the problem was from a previous email even, and you just presented a solution. And while you probably had a very nice, helpful, collaborative thought process, for whatever reason, the way you wrote it, that did not come across. They then made the worst-case scenario interpretation of your email, and when they did that worst-case scenario, they spoke back to that. When I write emails, if it's beyond just like logistic stuff, if I'm trying to solve problems and I'm having conversations to that, I try to write all four. So let's just make sure, do we agree that this is the problem? And this is why it hurts us. And by the way, there are 3 or 4 causes I can think of. Just very briefly, I line them up, and I think this is the most likely one. Maybe we even agreed on that before, or maybe it's just my reading. If that's indeed the diagnostic, then here are 2 or 3 strategies that we can tackle that one. And therefore, I would recommend 4 to take the number 3 strategy and apply it that way. And that's my recommendation to you. Now, it might still be the same recommendation, but the difference now is it's hard for them to make worst-case scenario interpretations, 1. 2, I, in a way, made them go down the ladder of inference. Did you notice that? Because now they see all the data and the reasoning and the interpretation and the logic and the conclusion at the very end of my thought process. So if they disagree with my conclusion, they are not going to be so quick to jump and think, aha, Horacio is trying to screw us. They will go, there's a flaw in his thinking, let me fix it right here on the diagnostic. So notice how it already became a much more collaborative conversation, even if you still make a mistake. So, especially for many of you who work cross-culturally, who actually negotiate a lot by emails, and you're involved in multi-party conversations, when people will then say to others, oh, that's what they said, as opposed to sharing the thought process, these 3 instances, in writing, cross-cultural, multi-party. I would argue that this is a very, very powerful tool. Okay? You don't have to overstress that too much on the normal negotiations. And yet, because of your particular negotiation, I felt it was important to bring that to you. Okay? I think it will help. Any questions about this in general? The framework, hopefully, once understood, I think it's pretty simple and straightforward. And it's supposed to be so you can remember it when you're writing emails and things of sorts. Questions? Questions about the BCSM, the behavior change theory model? Questions about the circle chart, also called 4 quadrants for brilliant reasons? I didn't create it, so. Yeah? I actually have a document explaining more about that. Would you guys like if I send it your way?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Can you take note? Thanks. And so now the last one, where we're going to do a small exercise again. Again, no real catches, no real tricks or anything like that, just for us to get the flow and see the flavor of it. So imagine here, you're in a negotiation team, okay, so you're in a team, Netflix, and you just received a request from your counterparty, me, and you have not anticipated or prepared for that request at all. And you see your teammate improvising a response and going off on a dangerous path. What do you do?
Are you on the phone or in person?
Good question. Let's say you're in person.
I am.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah, there's no mute button. Because that would be like, oh, what are you doing?
No, I am actually, yeah.
So what do? No mute button. On face-to-face.
All right. No computer, so you couldn't IM them like, hey.
You could computer it. Although my experience is that if someone is responding to something you haven't prepared and they're going off on a tangent, they're improvising on this, they're not looking, they're just like all in their heads. So you might need to send a loud IM, in which case it will call attention to the other side, in which case, or you're going to find yourself going like, dude, seriously.
Well, you might just interject and say, hey, this is, we appreciate, you bringing this to us, but we might need some time to gather our thoughts and talk internally.
We meditate.
And stop.
Should we meditate, right?
We're going to go out and meditate.
Yeah. So why say meditate? Why not just flat out ask for a break, by the way? Because that's a little bit, let's backtrack.
Whatever. Yeah, you could just say, I mean, we could say we want to talk, right?
Yeah.
Before we go further.
So,
and we want to make sure we apply the right amount of thought and consideration to it rather than thinking off the top of our head. Right?
so what are you trying to do?
Buy time.
Let me. Yeah, I understand. And coordinate your team again. So you're asking. So what I want to do now, Paul, is just open for the whole group, and playing from what you already started, expand on it a little bit. Imagine you are. So I'm going to make the challenge a little bit more specific. Imagine this hall